Welcome back. Another week. Rush Hour. I'm T Dubs. Justin. What's up,
Hey
man?
y'all.
How we doing?
Good, good. How was the long weekend? Was good. Everything. What'd y'all do?
It was great, actually. I went and visited our old friend Wes from Twitch,
Oh
actually.
yeah,
He's
nice.
got
How's
a
he
new
doing?
place up in Danville. I checked it out. It was super nice. But
Cool.
how about you? Anything?
Pretty low key. Had some friends over for just like a dinner and just hanging. I feel like on the East Coast, Memorial Day is bigger for whatever reason. I think it's
It
because like
is.
especially Northeast, it's kind of the first nice weekend. And so a lot of people are out and the barbecues and stuff like that. And I feel like, I mean, you've been out here longer than me. Do people actually do kind of like a barbecue game, big deal out here, or did I
Not
just
unless they
missing
want to
them?
start a wildfire.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you're right. It's not as big of a deal because there's more opportunities here to go out and
Exactly.
when the weather's always nice.
I
I
know.
don't want to see you take it for granted, but
I think you
it
do.
seems
I think
like
that's
start of
okay.
the summer is like whatever. It's always sunny
Yeah.
here.
Exactly. Exactly. So no, it was pretty low key relative to other Memorial Days of the past, but relaxing nonetheless and good time.
And what do we have this week? A lot of tech news.
A lot of
I
tech
mean,
news as always. Yeah.
Nvidia, the big one, right? Nvidia earnings, stocks going crazy.
Stock is just,
ten
it's
to one
like,
split announced. What are we
I
thinking?
know,
What are,
man.
what are
It's
your
got
thoughts on
me.
all of it?
Yeah, it's got me even nervous. I'm like, can it still climb? It's funny before we jumped on like pre-call, we were talking about. I think maybe were you in it individually as well in the individual stock, and did you
I
get
was
out?
for just a little bit. I didn't do very
Yeah.
well on it.
Oh, okay. So I was in it and it was doing well, and then I think maybe was it 2022 where it had that like huge drop, and I've been up. I was like, let me just get out, and luckily, it was still one of the top holdings and some of the other ETFs I was in, so still done all right. But man, if I had held that, would have been it would have been nice.
I had
But
it too
yeah,
early. I think I had it when we were at Twitch as well, and I had it, and I was like, you know what? It was doing okay, and then it started to drop a little bit, and I was like, I don't really know a
yeah,
ton about it, so I
yeah. Well, why don't
foolishly
we?
got out of it.
Yeah, let me do a quick overview for some
Yeah.
folks. I'm sure a lot of people are relatively like it's kind of top of mind, but maybe go over some of the specifics on the earnings. So,
Yes.
last Thursday, the stock rose 9.5%, which I think relative to like the market cap increase is one of the largest market cap increases of all time. I think it closed above 1,000 for the first time, which pushed its market cap to over 2.5 trillion. And this followed obviously like really impressive first quarter earnings, which just the hits keep coming, man. It seems to get better and better. They announced they're going to be doing a 10-for-1 stock split and an increased dividend, which is kind of along the lines of a trend that you're seeing in big tech recently, with just because they're just making so much money. I guess they're, continuing to give some value back to the shareholders. But most of the growth has been attributed to, data center revenue, which has increased
Yeah.
almost 430% year over year to 22.6 billion, and this now accounts for 86% of the company's total revenue for the quarter. Just to put that in perspective, Nvidia's gaming segment, which used to be kind of the cash cow, kind of like what Nvidia was known for, reported 2.6 billion in revenue for the quarter. So no small thing, but this is like a 10x from that, which is crazy, man.
Wild.
And I think that it's just on a tear. I don't really see it stopping. I think the value of Nvidia now is more than Tesla and Amazon combined, which is just seems absurd to even say, but it just shows how the company has just kind of been in the right place in the right time.
Yeah.
Great vision in terms of what they're working on, and this is the result of that. So yeah, any thoughts you have?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to I kind of had the earnings call on and the after hours stock ticker,
Nice.
and it was up a little bit, a couple of percent maybe. It was like hovering around 960, 970, and then once Jensen got on and started talking, and the thing shot up to 1,000. Like he just started talking about, hey, we're just kind of scratching the surface here. We're bullish on a couple of new industries that we can approach, and we're just starting to sort of make the cloud computing more efficient. And the stock just jumped, and it just kept going until through all through his little spiel about
Yeah.
what's coming. And it's amazing. Like when you think about cloud computing now, you think of Nvidia. Like they're the ones powering all of this cloud, all of these things that are happening in the cloud that makes our devices go, and your browser and images and all these things that are in the cloud, and you're referencing them and doing things and searching off them. That's all Nvidia. So
Yeah.
they've really got a really strong foothold in all these companies, and their infrastructure makes it really hard for companies to say, you know what, I'm just going to build this in house because of the efficiencies of scale and their ability to like adapt as they're learning from their infrastructure. It makes it hard for someone to say, I'm just going to do this on my own. I don't need Nvidia,
I know.
because I think Nvidia is just really capitalizing on the scale that they have, and they just grow, and then they learn and they optimize. And I think like their software and their computing power from year over year, like it's a multiplier like of
Yeah.
computing power that they're adding. It's impressive.
And they've had like a crazy head start, right? Like
Yeah.
for other incumbents who have the cash to catch up, like they may be able to catch up, but they're gonna have to spend a ton of money to do that. And let's say, I mean, I think right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Nvidia controls like 90% of the overall market. And so let's say that it went down to 70 or 65%. I mean, that's still like relative to the size of the market and how it's growing, it's still incredibly large. And so, we were talking about, hey, can it continue to run? Obviously not financial advice, but maybe so relative to kind of
Yeah.
just the head start that they've had versus other people in the space.
I mean, I think when he talked about other industries like medical and other fields that they haven't even really approached, and that haven't got into like total cloud computing, that's when people realize, oh my goodness, this still has room to grow because there's so many things that aren't in the cloud and aren't doing computing in the cloud. More you're thinking Square does a little bit, but you're thinking like retail, medical, commercial, industrial, international, like internationally, all that. Like there's so much more that they could do. So I think that's the reason why it continues to climb, because people are like thinking about the potential here.
Yep.
And as you said, the moat that they've built is huge. So
Yep.
for someone else to jump in and say we're going to do this ourselves is really hard. Like
Yeah.
companies focus on what they want to focus on. They're not
I know.
building out these chips. It's
And I
impressive.
think, we've been talking about, oh, I don't think we've ever perceived AI in our conversations to be a hype cycle. And like, I don't think we've ever said that. But I think what these earnings are showing is that it's not a hype cycle, right? Like,
Right.
literally the exact opposite. Because I think with, some other cycles, and I know we're going to talk about crypto in a little bit, the hype was there in terms of like retail interest, but in terms of like the applications and actually, people use it and interest outside of niche communities wasn't necessarily there. But what we're seeing with Nvidia's businesses, there's insanely strong demand that's backed up by crushing these revenue targets, quarter
Yeah,
over quarter.
totally.
So, if anyone needed to become a believer, I think they're becoming a believer now.
Yeah, it seems like what's happening with um, AI. Everyone thought, oh, AI is the one that's going to shoot up and change, but that's so. I mean, there's so many question marks around that. I feel like Nvidia is the one that's really capturing like the growth, because they're the ones that are going to do the computing for AI. So people are sort of betting on the next level up from the funnel in terms of like, hey, is it ChatGPT? Is it Google? Is it Gemini? Is it this? Is it that? You just go one level up and you go with Nvidia and you get all of it,
There
which
you go.
is kind of amazing. Yeah, like whatever plays out, it seems like Nvidia is going to be there.
Exactly. And I think the next stage, and I listen to other podcasts and smart folks talk about these topics as well. And what seems to be a reoccurring theme is kind of that application layer, right? And
Right.
what that looks like over time, and that really kind of changing the game of what happens to the entire industry. I think like Chamath was talking about, you know, I think he was talking about like I'm gonna mess this up, but he was talking about like refrigeration and how like the refrigerator was deemed to be this incredible innovation and technology, but really the companies that capitalized most off the refrigerator were like Coca-Cola, like
Yeah.
refrigerator product lines. And to think about it
Right.
within that context, as you think about applications of AI and everything that's going to be built on top of it, and how it takes that infrastructure layer and really catapult some new business models. That's what I'm excited about. I don't know necessarily the
Yeah.
timeline for that, but I think that it will come and it will be a tsunami.
Now, for the average person, I'm just thinking about our little clips here. For the average person, if you put it into layman terms, would you say that what Nvidia is doing is essentially working because all the stuff now is stored in the cloud? They're building chips that can do the computing in the cloud, so that
Right.
you don't have to own it on your computer. I think that's really, I mean, that's like an oversimplification, but if you think about all of the things that you use in the cloud, I'm talking photos that you upload, chats that you use, searches, all those things go to the cloud. And if you're going to work off of them and use them, it's probably Nvidia that is doing the work. Is that a fair way to look at it?
I I think so, particularly with I think that's generally the case, but I think particularly when you're thinking about like very sophisticated processing in terms of like the different models and what's powering the ability for these companies to have these super robust, machine learning capabilities and the LLMs and ingesting all that data into a way that kind of powers a lot of the AI like the output is maybe how I would maybe narrowly define that a bit more. But yeah, I think generally what you've stated is how to think about it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the Google search that is, what in the world is Nvidia doing that's making it grow, like that snippet, that may help some people as they're figuring out, should I put more money in this? What is going on? Like, I want to understand. I want to catch up. I'm
Yeah,
not sure I get what Nvidia is. That's like a quick snapshot, maybe. Um,
totally,
and then,
totally.
so what else do we have top of mind?
Yeah, maybe I know you spent some time in and around the crypto space recently. So
Yes.
one of the things I had on the docket was the Ethereum ETF approval, and I believe that the SEC is approving a number of spot ETFs in the same way they did with Bitcoin. And I think part of how some analysts have kind of thought about Bitcoin versus Ethereum in kind of stock market terms is Bitcoin is kind of like the Dow, and Ethereum is like the Nasdaq in terms of its broader
Yes.
range of applications. And so, right now, ETH is trading around what 3,000. I think this analyst in an article that we'll share it in the notes was saying, hey, if I think Standard Charter expects ETH to reach 8,000 by year end. So that's from 3 to 8 this year. What do you think about that trajectory with the spot ETF? What do you think about just ETH generally and applications? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
general
right now,
thoughts.
it's at 38.27. How I understand it, again, we're non-technical people, so like to break it down is that Bitcoin Bitcoin is like the most generic form of digital currency. Ethereum is a currency that you can code off of a little more easy. And what I mean by code off of is you can build things on top that use Ethereum very easily. It's tied to it. I think the coding platform, the way it's built, is much easier from what I understand, for coders and things to build. Meaning, if you want to turn something into an NFT, or you want to make a ticket, or if you want to make some kind of thing that requires um, a a currency, ETH is a much easier platform to use. I think one of the drawbacks that I've heard in the industry is number one is the gas. So every time
The
you make a
fees, right?
transaction, there's what's called a gas fee, which is like the fee to transact and do the processing. So the first one is the gas fees in Ethereum are very high. So um, if you're gonna do something that's going to transact repeatedly, it's going to be very expensive for you to do that. And then number two, the speed at which it does it isn't exactly fast. I mean, you can do a lot, but you can't do like you're talking millions of processing per second. It doesn't work that fast. So if you're thinking in terms of global scalability, that's some of the questions become can Ethereum do it? But then others have built sort of other currencies off of Ethereum that are based on Ethereum that are much faster and cheaper, like Solana and some others. So if you're
Right.
going to dive into like crypto, it's probably worth thinking about what are you really investing in. If you're thinking like, hey, the next video game or collectible thing, it's going to be all based in Ethereum or sports betting and all of these things are going to be built on something. It's probably going to be Ethereum, right? Like things
Right.
are going to get built on some variation. If you're thinking of just like gold, investing in it, and it's a digital currency,
Right.
Bitcoin is probably a more suitable currency. Is
Yeah.
that fair?
I think so. And that's typically how I perceive the difference between the two. Again, not as heavy technical knowledge, but just thinking of Bitcoin as kind of like a store of wealth over time. I'm not thinking about that as something that I'm
Yes.
necessarily transacting in, but I know there's a finite supply. And so kind of a law of, supply and demand, and, there'll be fewer and fewer coins, and, those who hold up will necessarily increase in value as there's more demand. And then for ETH, I think about it, yeah, like in terms of kind of being able to transact, in terms of protocols that can be built off of it. It seems to be one with a really large developer network. I think Solana as well. There are probably some others, but like of the other coins that I'm invested in, I try to think about how many developers are actually creating applications
Right.
for these projects as well. But it's been a fascinating run. What would you say for people who are again, not necessarily going to invest, but are interested in learning more just about the space? I imagine some of the folks who are watching us are a bit more sophisticated, but maybe for those who aren't, where do you go to kind of stay on top of your crypto knowledge, just to have a general sense of what's going on and new trends and projects to be
Yeah,
aware
I
of?
look. I tend to look in the wallets a lot. Like if you just Coinbase is probably the most frequently used, but you can look at trending and new cryptocurrencies there, and you can read about them, and then you can search for some of the work on there. It definitely takes you down a rabbit hole for sure. But you can kind of say, hey, what's this new currency that came out? This is moving percentage wise a lot. You can sort things by percentage. You can look at it and they say, "Hey, what projects are on this currency?" and kind of get into it. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Think about it in terms of like, "Hey, what are the projects that are being made? Do I believe in this product? Do I believe in the people that are working on it?" And that'll give you a kind of an inkling into like, "Hey, okay, this is how it works, and really, what is it built on? Is it built on Ethereum? Is it built what platform is it ultimately leading to? Is it limited? Is it unlimited? All the things and the questions that you want to ask, and I think for me, I've always looked at the reason why people are doing it. Is if it's just a cash cow, then it's for me going to be all about hype, and it's like, hey, catch on the upswing and sell it, but somebody's probably going to be left holding the bag at the end.
Yeah,
But
totally.
that's just kind of how it works.
Yeah.
How about
What do
you?
you
What do
think
you
of?
do to research?
I do that. I used to listen to a bunch of like YouTubers who I thought
Yeah.
were, kind of reasonable in their approach as well. There's like the Milk Road, which is a newsletter that I think Sean Puri started. That I think
Yep.
he ultimately sold, but has some good kind of like daily information on what's going on there. They make it fun and digestible as well. Really, those two, and then like what I've talked about in prior episodes, just TechCrunch and just, it's a good opportunity there to kind of stay on top of trends what's going on in the general tech space, and like knowing when ETFs are going to be approved, things like that. I just it's typically a good place for me to just stay on top of general knowledge.
Good barometer.
Yeah,
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 it seems like everyone jumps in and out of the sort of hype train on crypto, but if you just hold steady, it's kind of like going up to the right, slowly
yeah.
but surely.
Well,
It's
maybe
a
one
little
additional
more dramatic,
maybe
but
one additional question on this, which I'm happy to answer first, and then I would love to get your thoughts. Is like, how do you think about like when to sell? Like how long you're going to hold certain cryptos and when to sell? And maybe I'll kick it off, which is Bitcoin. I want to try to never sell it because
right.
I think that the real value there is in the long term holding. I kind of feel the same way about ETH as well. I kind of see it as a bit of maybe I will use it to transact down the line, but kind of store a value. With the other project, kind of Sol, Matic, a few others. I've done some more kind of like active trading there as it's gone up and down. But how do you think about your holdings and holding them versus trading?
Yeah, that's. I mean, if you knew that, you'd be right. If you knew that, you'd have a whole lot of money. But I think I tend to think about what do I need in terms of cash. Where does it go? Because like holding is the same as buying, right? Like if you're gonna hold, that means you're willing to buy it at that price essentially. So
Yep.
in terms of like how I think about things, it's like what am I going to do with that money? What am I going to do outside of it? Is there something else that looks better? If I'm going to flip it into some other thing, then I do that. So
Yep.
it's not a great answer, but like I think about like when we get employee stock options, when we got Amazon, I was always like, all right, would I buy Amazon at this price? Would I invest at this price? And if the case is yes, and I don't sell. If it's no, I'd rather put in something else
Right.
that I just sell it and do it right. So if you're gonna go in there and sort of balance your portfolio, that's kind of how I look at it. So that it's tough with Bitcoin and Ethereum because I'm like, all right, I've got a lot of gains here. What do I do with it? What I've done is I've taken some off the table and then I put it into smaller coins and then diversify that way. So I only diversify my, sort of random coins with profit and interest. So that's kind of how I do it. You're right. I haven't sold much Bitcoin. I did take some. I bought it a long time ago, 2017, 18. So I took some out,
Yep.
put it in Ethereum, and then
Same.
I was like, all right, I'm going to put some more investment into this. And kind of just left it, and every once in a while, if it goes up, I'll sell, and then I'll buy some new startup, currency. Otherwise, yeah, I kind of keep it at that.
I like that.
It's
I like
tough.
that.
It is really
Yeah.
hard though.
Because
But
I'm
that's
not
true with
following it
everything.
super
If you know when
close.
to sell, yeah. If you know when to
Yeah.
sell, you don't need to work.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps me just kind of stay on top of it too. Because I feel like if I had sold more at this point, I just would not have been even as interested. And so because I got,
Right.
some in there, I feel like if I need the money, then I'll probably sell. If I don't, then I'll probably hold it just to see how it plays out.
I mean, that's the same with stock. How often do you sell and balance your stock?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I try to hold at least 3 to 5 years,
Okay.
and then I'll kind of reevaluate and I'll look at what the performance is, and then I'll make some adjustments there. So we were talking before about Nvidia and even Facebook, and the reason why I held those individually was because I thought I had some asymmetric knowledge on those companies based off of time I worked at Twitch and working on performance marketing, kind of a sense of what my spend was on Facebook at the time and how meaningful that was. And once I left, as it was kind of corresponded with a time that I was reevaluating my holdings anyway, so I decided to sell a bunch then. But that's a relatively small percentage of my holdings. Most are in ETFs, and I'll just try to rebalance every 3 to 5 years, and that's generally a strategy. And one additional thing that I do is I don't really do. I used to have a more diverse array of I guess sectors right? Like I used to, oh, let me put some in REITs and let me do some stuff
Yeah.
in industrials and materials, stuff like that. And what I found there was, it was good in terms of diversifying, but I don't really feel like I knew those sectors as well. And so what I've done
Right.
more is still been in the ETF, but more focused on tech and areas that I really understand at a deep level, and try to go for those funds that have like a higher percentage of certain companies in there that I think are going to perform well. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of do. So I'm a lot older than you now. So now I've got my Roth and my IRAs like in a point where in the next 15 years I'm gonna actually be able to take this out. So I've started to shift like short term. I don't day trade, but like less than 1 year things. Like if I'm gonna just get in an Nvidia and get out, I'm
Yep.
doing it in a Roth and I'm doing it in an IRA. So I've been playing around with that a lot more than I have in the past. And then moving, my cash actually, I like Warren Buffett's philosophy a lot. So I put, Berkshire B. I just put all my cash in Berkshire B, in the interim. So usually that's the question, like, hey, would I rather have this or Berkshire B? Which one? If that's my thought process, like which one's going to do better for me in the next, you know, 3 years, Berkshire, or is it going to be Reddit? Or for example, if I'm like, hey, Reddit's got a big opportunity, I'm going to eat some Reddit. If not, then I'm going to sell my Reddit and put it into Berkshire. So that's done really well for me. Like as instead of because like Berkshire does well against, if you compare it against the S&P in the market, it does fairly
Yep.
well. So that's been pretty fun to kind of play around with. And then I definitely fell into the hype of AMC and GameStop and reading about it and jumping in.
Yeah.
I didn't go crazy, but it was like a few $1,000s here and there just ride the waves and watch and the madness that ensues has been
Yeah.
fun. I can't say I've made a ton, but it's
It
fun.
keeps you
It's fun to
interested.
follow.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
for
it
sure.
just like the stuff we talked about before. It keeps you engaged in the space in a way that you know that you continue to learn. And I think one thing that we talk about
Yes.
all the time is kind of how important that is, especially as you get
Yeah.
further along in your career and you don't have as ready access to the information as you may have in the
Right.
past. In terms of some of the sectors that we're in, or our own like interests and things like that. So if you
Totally.
put some money in, you put some skin in the game, that's going to incentivize you to probably follow it more closely, at a minimum.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm because we're in tech and I trust it and I know it well. I definitely am way skewed high on tech. That's why I use
Yeah,
Berkshire as my like cash
yeah,
option
yeah,
because I feel like that's the opposite. That's like the old school Coca Cola, Wrigley Spearmint gum kind of investments. So I don't worry about trying to diversify, but like the example of Amazon to me, like Amazon is diversified within itself. Nvidia kind of is as well. I mean, I know it's in computing chips, but if you
yeah,
think about within industries, that thing. I mean, Amazon and these, and they've got so many bets out there. Facebook as well.
yeah,
They've got so many investments out there that I feel well enough to put my money in there and not worry about this if one site goes down, all of my money goes down the drain. It's not like that because I think they have such a wide array of products and diversification
yeah,
that I'm okay with that. I mean, that's to me that seems like fun. And like one method I had when I was much younger was like this is gonna sound bad, but like what is America good at? And I just thought America is really known for entertainment,
yeah,
so I kind of like narrowed in entertainment as my thing, right? Like so whatever channel, whatever thing is popping, I'm still there's still people still want entertainment and content. So I went down the path of Disney and Warner Brothers and Sony and all of those sort of entertainment stocks. I went down there, and then I went down the next step. Okay, how are you going to get it? Okay, you're going to need internet, so I'm getting Comcast. I'm going to get T-Mobile. I'm going to get AT&T. I'm getting Verizon. So like going down that
yeah,
path of like, all right, do I captured all the things? Like, have I sort of diversified within the thing that I think America is great at? And that did well for me. Like, obviously I got Google, I got Amazon, I got um, all those kinds of stocks, Tesla, which I considered an entertainment stock because because I was like, hey, it's a fun product. And he said that too in a podcast. Sorry, he said it was a fun vehicle. So anyway, I did that route. That did well for me. And then I kind of continued down that path of like, what are we really good? What do we really need in America? What is America's greatest export? And to me, entertainment, AI. I mean, AI and Google, all those things. I feel like are a part of that. So
That would be interesting as an ETF. You know,
yes,
America. Yeah, like I don't know. We have to think of a more clever, like a clever name, but it's like the America. Yeah, some type of America focused ETF on like what is the country's best kind of exports, and
yeah.
then
Because
focusing on top
when you go
companies
to
there.
another country, they think about American movies and Google and YouTube and the internet in general. Like a lot of people think of entertainment and stuff that coming from America. Now others use it differently.
Right.
Um, but like Netflix and all these things are entertainment, and we're
Yeah.
America is great at it. It's pretty. I mean, Korea's picked up, but America's been pretty darn good at it for
Oh
many
yeah.
years.
Totally. And I love those Korean shows. We'll have to maybe talk about some of those Korean shows at some point because I got a bunch on Netflix I've been watching.
Oh, yeah, same. I've been going through them.
Yeah, so I know we got about 10 minutes or so left on this episode. There are a few more topics, so maybe I'll go through them and then let me know which one you think seems the most interesting. So, Biden is looking for a meme lord. We could kind of go into that. He's hiring for someone to run his social media accounts. Linktree recently surpassed 50 million users, and just to put that in relative terms, their closest competitors have like 7 million and 2 million users. So their growth has been insane. And then Bumble acquired an app called Geneva, which I thought is kind of just interesting based on our time in the dating space. And we can kind of get into that a little bit in this remaining time. But any of those three kind of stand out as particularly interesting?
No, the first one, the meme account.
Yeah.
What exactly are they looking for?
Yeah, so basically, the Biden campaign is looking to bring someone in to focus on creating like memes to engage their younger demographics on their social accounts and channels. So the actual role is a partner manager to handle content and meme pages with a salary of 85K. So not a bad chunk of change, to be managing the Biden's memes, and I think that basically looking for someone who really understands memes and meme culture and be engaging with these counts as a way to kind of get at these younger demographics outside of traditional news. And you may remember like there was this whole kind of "Let's go Brandon" kind of Biden meme that happened in the past, and
Yep.
he actually embraced that and became a significant part of his campaign, even though it was kind of like negative at first. And I think what his campaign has recognized kind of the power of some of these platforms, even though huge asterisk, he's talking about like, typically, with the legislation around TikTok, obviously he's not necessarily the biggest fan, but then again, he's hiring for this role. So maybe that's a whole other conversation, but essentially he's looking for someone to help him create memes, which I think is awesome and a testament to the time and a testament to the power of social and culture and how that bleeds into all aspects of life, including politics. So, yeah, I was
Yeah,
kind of blown away by that as well.
hard to deny. It's pretty hard to deny that this stuff matters now, right? Like, so many people are looking at it, and it definitely it bleeds into everyday life. I mean, watching sports and um, it's hard not to see all the social media stuff taking over. Even um, little memes here and there become on TV. I watch TNT. They go over them all the time. I think
I
it's
know, I
pretty
love
cool.
that. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's amazing how it's like spread across the mainstream. I don't even know if I don't even know which one is mainstream at this point. Is it TV or is it the internet, the social media? Which one is bigger at this point? It seems like it's the social media,
It's
but
probably social. I mean, it probably varies by demo, but it's
right.
probably social media. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is different platforms and kind of share of time that people spend versus others.
Yes.
So think of social media, like the time that you spend on Instagram is competing with Netflix, is competing with watching traditional linear television, is competing with you going to the bar, spend time with your friends, etc. Right? So like
Right. Totally.
the beams, people scrolling through social media is where a lot of people are spending their time. So it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
that you'd want to
Totally.
have somebody who can kind of capture that attention in that
Yeah.
format in a way that other traditional advertising, even within digital advertising, wouldn't necessarily
Can
do in
do.
the same way. So yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, well, it catches on in a different way too. Like it just hits kind of different. Like I don't know. Part of me is like when you hire a role for someone to try and go do these things, it rarely pans out versus them happening
Yeah.
organically and you catching a wave. But I guess if you're going to do it and be on top of it, you need somebody to full time be on top of it when it doesn't.
Yeah. It is interesting, right? So like hiring for that job, right? Unless you have someone who's worked at other maybe pop culture brands who's like found and kind of created memes and knows how to do it well, and I feel like that's very, very niche. So we'll see how well they're able to kind of do that. But
Yeah.
there probably could be another approach, which is something that we did, like when I was working on, our dating app, which was basically just to find accounts that were really good at creating these things and have them do it, and then you just have kind of like a network of meme lords that
That's
are disseminating your content across their channels. I think that's like another approach that can work. I guess for Biden's campaign, they probably want more control over the content that's posted, which makes sense relative
yeah, you
to
truly do.
what they do. But I don't know, the other strategy seems like you might actually get a lot bit more reach doing it the other way.
Right. Even, some combination of those two, I'm sure, is probably going to get you the most legs.
Yeah,
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 it's kind of crazy to think Biden is trying to make these kind of memes, but
right. Especially coming from our space where you know this was kind of just like a laughed at, very niche part of pop culture that
yeah,
that we were both participating in some ways or leveraging in terms of like marketing tactics, and now they're actually hiring for those roles. It seems
now
super
they're
late.
hiring to do
It
these.
seems super delayed, honestly, but I think it's still very telling of the power of social and culture and understanding that and being able to convey certain ideas in a way that can be captured, visually and just like this new format that's being created. So I think it's all very cool. That's what gets me. That's what keeps me really excited about staying in social consumer in particular.
No, no, totally. All right, one thing we forgot to do this week: the giveaway. Next week we'll do it for sure.
Every
Maybe next
every
week.
week.
Next week
Every,
for sure we're gonna do a giveaway next week. We'll pick somebody. Nobody made comments anyway. I think everyone watched it. Like, yeah, whatever.
yeah,
But we'll make another clip. We'll put it out there and let's see what happens.
yeah. Maybe we have to make a
So like and
specific.
subscribe below. Yeah, for sure. For sure. We got to make
Yes,
a
for
little
sure.
specific video that's like, hey, here's the stuff. Here's how you give it away. Here's what we're talking about. And let's see how it goes, man. Appreciate
I'll,
your time this
I'm
week.
I'm down, man. This is one of the highlights. So glad we always get to
Yeah,
wrap.
for sure.
Cool.
And we'll talk soon, man. Enjoy the rest
Sounds
of your
good,
week.
bro. You too. Later.